Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Thank you very much for joining us. Monday to Friday, we're always live at 4 o'clock. And of course, if you want to, you can download the PLZ Soccer app and you can watch it on your phone as well. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and you'll get all the notifications of when we are ready to rock and roll. Alan Ruff is here with Tam McManus and Charlie Adam. You can give us your thoughts on all the big issues, and of course, if you get a chance, you can also post a message in the submission section of the app, and it will drop right into our box to read some of your comments as well. So, Charlie, great to have you with us. It was a tough weekend for you. Good noise up these. The big man was absolutely doing you in. Was it a huge disappointment? What did you make of them?
They were good.
Yeah.
Front three were excellent. Going to cause teams all sorts of problems. And, they've got that wide area, they've got pace, and they've got somebody up front who, his movement is ridiculous. It doesn't matter if he's playing against somebody at 6'5", 3 feet. It just doesn't matter. His movement's unbelievable, and he's a very, very good player, and he's going to cause a lot of problems. So, but listen, he's playing for a big club, and they're good players. So sometimes you've got to deal with that. But it's a huge disappointment, especially in your own patch. We never really laid the glove on them, and it's disappointing. But these things can happen.
You were impressed by them. Do you think they're the best side you've faced this season?
Well, I never played in the Rangers game, but I think that front three at the moment could cause anybody problems. But I still think that with Kent coming back into that Rangers team now, and obviously what's going on with the manager is going to be interesting. 24, 40 hours for Rangers as a football club. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. But listen. Rangers still at the top, and everybody else has got to catch them. Yeah,
well, let's talk about the burning subject. It's on everyone's lips. Is he going to stay or is he going to go? Ruffy, the general feeling among us is he's heading to Villa.
Yeah, we discussed it yesterday, and we gave the pros and cons of why he would or why he wouldn't, and everything was relevant. But as I said yesterday, Steven Gerrard's the only one that can answer that massive question. We don't know what his ambitions are. Until he makes a statement out there or something happens, we'll then find out what his idea is, where he is going to take his next career move. And we're all speculating. We're hearing things, but in football you never know until it's done. Yeah. But it must be a horrible time for the Rangers supporters. They think so highly of him, and quite rightly so. So they'll be anxious more than anybody else to find out what's happening at their club.
Yeah, general feeling. I think you spot somebody in London with their agent.
Is this video?
It's looking fairly conclusive.
To be fair, for the video, it's not his agent. It's one of his friends. So yeah. I can back him up on that. But I also heard the story. There's reasons why he's in London as well, not just because of the Aston Villa thing. So we're putting two and two together at the moment, and we're speculating for everything. The rumours are circling very quickly. And it's very hard to quash them unless the club come out and say something, or Stephen comes at himself. It's going to add arms and legs to everything until we know what's going to happen. But what's going on and what everybody's hearing is it looks strongly like he's going to go to Aston Villa, which will be a huge blow for Rangers.
Yeah, I think, and again, Tam, on the basis of yesterday when I thought, would he go to Aston Villa? Is Aston Villa the next train stop before everybody thinks he's going to Liverpool? My only doubt on that, I thought he might stay to the end of the season for the crack at the Champions League, if indeed they win the league. Now, the other flip side of that is what we're going to discuss is quite simply, if he does take this Villa job, is he of the opinion that he's got to go now because Rangers have announced £23.5 million losses. They've got to get £7.5 million in before the end of the season. He wanted to buy players. The Rangers board said, we gave you money to buy players, and they haven't bought a lot of players in of late. They are the title winners. Has he looked at the whole situation and thought, I'm not going to get that same amount of money. It's going to become even more difficult. Is he weighing all that up? Is there the lack of huge amounts of money at Rangers and the chance to spend a bit of money and keep Villa in the league a better offer?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that when you look at Rangers at the minute, you look at the financial records coming out, there's not a lot of money swimming about at Rangers at the minute. as you said, I don't think he was heavily backed in the window there in the summer, but he's looking at Aston Villa. Football's about timing. You know, timing is everything in football, and Aston Villa are a big club. You know, they spent £120 million in one window, you know, and Rangers spent 2.5. So that is the difference between the clubs. I think that when you look at it as well, I think Aston Villa, you know, they get 10, 12,000 people on a waiting list for season tickets. I went down to Villa a couple of seasons ago. I was blown away by how big a club they were and the support and everything. Listen, I'm not as big a club as Rangers, but in terms of English terms, he's gone down there. I think he'll get backed. He knows Christian Puzzolo from his time at Liverpool. I think all the planets have aligned for him. I think for him to go to Aston Villa, and I think it's going to happen. And I think it'll be a massive blow for Rangers, because he has come in and he has pulled that club off their knees. You know, they were getting battered off of Celtic. You know, and Gerrard's come in, he's put belief back in the club and the supporters. Stopped 10 in a row. He will be a Rangers legend kind of forever, but I feel as if the time is now for him to go to Aston Villa.
Yeah, it's not as if they're going to have to pay a huge amount to get him out of Ibrox.
No, the compensation, we're talking about 2 and 3 million, is nothing to Aston Villa's drop in the ocean. But it's, I think Stephen's got a lot to weigh up. Family's still in Liverpool. You know, he's got a young boy. It's, you know, 4 years of age. You know, it's that will come into it as well. Being away from in Glasgow for 3.5 years or so, what he's been here, it's obviously been difficult. And but in the grand scheme of things, as a footballing decision, you know, he's got to weigh that up, like you said, to go to the Premier League in England. Everybody presumes he's going to get the Liverpool job, but Steven Gerrard's come out to say himself, I need to be good enough. I need to get results to prove to get the Liverpool job when Jurgen leaves, if that's possible. So I think, like I say, this could be the next step. And
is it the right step?
Well, it's the next one that's available in the Premier League. From where it was, you know, the Newcastle one was a thing, but you know, that's a different challenge altogether from Aston Villa. You know, they're struggling confidence, the players. You know, I think Villa have got a better squad than Newcastle. And if it comes down to that, the friendship with Christian Puzzolo is going to go a long, long way, and he'll trust him and do that. And if he is the number one target and they want him to take over, I think he's a good fit for Aston Villa to move forward.
Let's have a look at that record of Steven Gerrard.
Steven Gerrard is interested in a move to Aston Villa, with the Premier League side set to make an official approach. So if the Rangers manager does leave Ibrox, how will he be remembered? The former Liverpool captain took over in the summer of 2018, and he quickly set to his task of turning the tide in Glasgow. Within his first 2 months at the club, Gerrard had led Rangers through 4 rounds of the Europa League qualifying, a feat he would repeat in his next 2 years, and also to their first group stage for 7 seasons. He also delivered the Gers' first Old Firm victory in 6 years when Ryan Jack scored the only goal at Ibrox in December 2018. However, it was far from plain sailing. The Gers finished 3rd in the Europa League group stage, and Aberdeen stunned them in both cup competitions, knocking them out in Glasgow on both occasions. Celtic won the league by 9 points despite changing their manager in February. In 2019, the team clearly improved. They came out of the Europa League and reached the last 16, famously beating Porto and Feyenoord in the group stages, and home and away victories over Braga in the first knockout round. Glory eluded them still, with Hearts putting them out of the Scottish Cup, and despite the Old Firm League Cup final being utterly dominated by the blue side, they walked away with a runners-up medal. The match was used as a blueprint for Celtic games going forward though, as they won at Parkhead for the first time in 8 years later that month. However, a poor January cost them the title in the end, with Celtic 8 points clear as the virus halted the season in March 2020. But with a long break and a new season starting against the backdrop of empty stadiums and the threat of 10 in a row looming over them, everything clicked into place and Rangers went up another gear. They topped their Europa League group ahead of Benfica before putting 9 past Antwerp in the last 32. They didn't lose a game in the competition until Slavia Prague beat them in the last 16 of the Europa League in March. St Mirren and St Johnstone were the only domestic defeats they suffered all campaign. The two sides beaten Rangers at the quarter-finals of the 2 respective cups, which was a big disappointment. But in the league, they were almost flawless. They won every game at Ibrox, beat Celtic 3 times, only conceded 13 goals, were crowned champions at the earliest date in over 100 years, reached 102 points and, of course, were invincible. When Gerrard was appointed Rangers manager, he knew he'd be judged on whether he could stop Celtic's bid for 10 in a row. He succeeded, although his cup record leaves much to be desired, as he himself has admitted. The 41-year-old proved he had the vision, personality and strength of character to deliver success back to the huge club, and his appointment, that was welcomed with some understandable scepticism, has turned out to be a masterstroke. As the posters around the city have told us, he's now a god in Glasgow, but will he be remembered that way forever if he leaves for Aston Villa now?
Well, I'll tell you, this one is one of those topics which has got an angry response, a passionate response from lots of our feed. Ruffy, Chris Stewart says Steven Gerrard bought his son his first trip. It was a Rangers trip. He said himself that he would not leave Rangers in the lurch. I believe he is a man of his word. Of course, there's lots of people pointing to just one trophy in 9, St Johnstone winning a double. And when you look back, St Johnstone, St Mirren, Hearts, Celtic, all knocking him out of cup competitions, albeit, as Gabriel mentioned there, the League Cup was like one-way traffic for Rangers, and they still didn't get the win. But I think that the be-all and end-all was stopping 10 in a row. He achieved that. How do you think the Rangers fans will look upon his record, what he's achieved, and if he does go, the reaction?
Yeah, I think the cup runs and not winning as much as what they thought will be significant, but winning the league, and transforming Rangers from where they are to where they are now and what they're doing in Europe, the Rangers supporters must be happy with what he's done at the club, and I would hazard a guess there'll be some upset, but I think the majority will think he's served the club well in his time that he's been there.
Yeah. How much do you think his decision is based on what I was saying to Tam? Do you think he's looked at what's available at Rangers right now and thought this is the time to jump on the train?
Yeah, I think Charlie's probably better to answer it than us, because Charlie's been down in England. He knows what the English people think of our football up here, and winning the league up here it's only two people can win it. So the kudos of that, I don't know if it rates highly down in England, but certainly as we thought, when going into Europe and doing particularly well in Europe, that's the thing that catches other clubs' eyes. And he's already been on record to say, look, if the Rangers board want me to do well in Europe, they need to give me more money to buy players. Now, he's obviously going to say to himself, well, look at the situation with the financial side of the club. I'm not going to get money. And if I get into the Champions League with the players I've got, I mean, Malmo beat us, and Malmo are getting hammered with everybody. So how much has he got to spend to be sort of relatively competitive in Europe? It's a lot of money. So these are things he's got to sort of weigh up. But I've always said that Rangers aren't a stepping stone to Liverpool. I think he's got to prove himself down in England to the people down in England who don't rate our game. Yeah,
the one thing I would say though, Charlie, he is, and it's an unbelievable situation. He is almost in England anyway. I mean, Rangers fans love him up here, and rightly so. But he is down south, the anointed one. I mean, it's almost like a procession of acceptance that he will go to Liverpool at one point, regardless of whether English journalists and pundits and and people in the game rate Scottish football or not. Steven Gerrard can do no wrong. He's like a god. He's part of what I call that trio of players who, no matter what they do, they're just absolutely adored. Scholes, Lampard, Gerrard, that golden generation of players. Lampard at Chelsea, sacked, failed.
But I think it's a different one, Frank. He went to Derby for a year and got the Chelsea job.
Yeah.
With no budget, couldn't sign a player. Steven's at least come and done his hours. He's been at one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's been here 3.5 years. He's got different experiences, been managing Europe. He'll be prepared for this Aston Villa job.
Yeah.
And, to come and to go into that league, into the big league and compete against City, Chelsea, United, Liverpool, all the big clubs in England. He's prepared himself well at a big club and he's been able to get time. But, Brendan won all these trophies and he still got dog's abuse for leaving Celtic. So it doesn't matter what Steven done. If he'd won the last 9 trophies, there'll still be Rangers fans not happy that he's left, because the Rangers fans and everybody thinks that they should be just staying at Rangers. That's the way football is. Sometimes you've got to make your own selfish decision on what you think's best, the next pathway. And I know it's obviously leaving Rangers maybe in the middle of the season is not what he planned to do. Maybe he wanted to see it to the end of the season. The timing's probably not right, but sometimes you've got to make that decision, and that decision could pass you by. Do you know what I mean? And then
It's a Brendan Rodgers moment.
It is, and it's the right. It could. He just might feel for him and his staff, it's the right time, not at the right moment, because he'd love to have been to the end of the season. He's got a semi-final in 2 weeks' time, wanted to be in that and trying to get into the Champions League, win another title. But when an Aston Villa come calling, and like you say, the project that they've got and what they can go and spend, it's hard to go and say no to it.
Yeah, Stephen Smith says stopping 10 in a row and our performances in Europe were fantastic. Always be grateful to Steven Gerrard and wish him well if he goes. So from that point of view, we are jumping the gun a little bit here on this one, because the speculation is now rife, it's gathering pace. There's a lot of very, very good journalists in England who are now putting their neck on the line and saying, look, this is going to be a done deal. It's just about crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So when you get to that frenzy, it's very rare, you know, when I look at some of the really good journalists, it's very rare that it falls flat in its back end, unless a manager has that ultimate change of heart and changes his mind. But yesterday we talked about it, Tam. A call will have been made. Are you interested? You know, the tapping goes on in the background, and then the formal moves, and everybody will be kept completely aware of this situation.
Yeah, listen, I think I don't see any turning back now. I think once he goes down there and speaks to Aston Villa and he finds out, you know, the wages and money he's got to spend, the squad he's got, you know, the project, some of the wealthiest guys in the world own Aston Villa. So I think that I don't think there'll be any turning back once he gets down there, and I don't think there'll be many Rangers fans that will say, you know, give him abuse, because he stopped 10 in a row. That was the main thing. Yeah. You know, I was sitting, a lot of Celtic fans are saying he won one trophy out of 9. He won the main one. You could have won 6 cups out of 9 and lost 3 leagues, and they'd been like that, right, see you later, Stephen. A lot of Rangers fans, but he stopped 10 in a row, and that was the be-all and end-all for him coming to Rangers. Making a wee name for himself in Europe as well, and getting some good performances, but he stopped 10 in a row, and Rangers fans forever will be grateful for that.
If he does leave, he's leaving in a better place than he found it.
Oh, definitely.
So definitely. I think that goes down to his staff and as a group of players, and also the backing to Douglas and people like that at the board. So I think listen, if it did happen, he can walk away with his head held high, and you know, he will regret the little bit of the timing, probably not right, but you got to make that decision in your career where you want to go on the next level, and it's an opportunity for him. So, you know, it's now down to the board and Ross Wilson now to pick the right manager if somebody else comes in.
The only thing that worked when he was supposed to be going to Chelsea was the Liverpool fans were burning the Gerrard strips and all that effigies. Maybe the Rangers fans could do that, and maybe change his mind.
Yeah, no, I don't think that will happen. To be perfectly honest with you, but to be fair, I think there were a few other forces at hand if Gerrard was going to leave to join Chelsea. But nevertheless, never look at Charlie with his cool, calm face here. But nevertheless, this is. I think it's going to gather pace in the next 24 hours. You know, some Rangers fans will be disappointed, but as Tam and Charlie rightly point out, I think when you look back at the be-all and end-all, it was winning that league title, that crucial league title for Rangers. Just who Rangers might look at, you might think we are jumping the gun. The bookies already have the graphic, as you can see, explains what the bookies think of this for the next Rangers manager before it's confirmed that Gerrard is out the door. Alec Neil 5-2, Gary McAllister 3-1, Derek McInnes 9-2, Michael Beale 6-1, Van Bronckhorst 15-2, and John Terry 11-1. Now there's 2 or 3 in that equation. Well, to be perfectly honest with you, Charlie, I look at all 6 of them, and I'm thinking I can't see any of them getting the job. You know, but who knows?
Yeah, I think that it'll be a short-term fix at the moment. I just think that they'll have to get somebody in now to consolidate from now to the end of the season, and see where they go from that, because it'll be a surprise to them. I don't think they'll have had anybody lined up or any names, you know, floating around. Yeah. Might Ross, the way that Ross works, he probably has got 4 or 5 on a list that he's thought if this happens, they'll be prepared for it, but they probably thought that it wouldn't happen, and they'll be maybe caught a little bit short. So I think it could be a short-term fix. I know we had a disagreement earlier today, but yeah. I think Derek could come in and be the stopgap to the end of the season. But You know, I don't think Alec Neil can get it. I don't think that Michael Beale will go to Aston Villa with him. So I think Derek maybe can come in, but there's nobody else in Scotland available that I think would be able to get it.
Well, you know, Charlie thinks Derek McInnes. if Steven Gerrard goes, Charlie thinks Derek McInnes. My personal opinion, the reason why we had a disagreement about it, Ruffy, is I think a lot of Rangers fans, certainly maybe even members of the board, will look and say, no, the train doesn't stop twice with regards to the Rangers job. He knocked them back, and the way the whole thing actually unfolded wasn't good for Rangers or Derek McInnes.
Caixinha come back? No?
No, oh look, there's a flying pig over your head, Charlie.
Graham Murray stayed.
He's locked himself in a cupboard somewhere.
He's stayed cartwheels at that signal.
I know.
He's stayed cartwheels at Murray Park at the moment, practising them.
To be fair, I mean, that's the great thing. That's the joy of the noise up around Glasgow, Ruffy, because I've seen the WhatsApp sent round with Graham Murty in the bat signal. You know, save the day again. But it's got to be someone, I think, that the Rangers fans, if Gerrard goes, feel confident can keep his hand on the rudder and guide them to another title.
Yeah, I can see where Charlie's coming from. You need somebody in, but I mean, see, as soon as this job gets announced, there'll be 50 candidates.
Oh,
there'll
yeah.
be 60, there'll be 70, there'll be names
Well, I could think
popping out from everywhere, and bigger names than that.
Frank Lampard could be one. He'd throw his name in the hat for it as well.
Yeah.
I just think that, you know, well, why would you want to go to Norwich if this Rangers job comes up? I believe that the Rangers job's a great opportunity for him to get himself back in the door and you know, fighting for titles. So, you know, maybe Frank could be in there as well.
Has the De Boer boy done anything at club level? One of the De Boers.
Frank.
What's his track?
Well, he went to Crystal Palace and had it.
Get fired from Atlanta.
He got fired, yeah.
4
So
days at Crystal Palace didn't quite work out. Well, I'm being slightly facetious, but they wanted him to play a certain way, and when he started playing a certain way, they thought, "Oh, this is not for us."
He never scored the goal, didn't he?
but they never had the players to play the way he wanted to play.
No,
That was the
exactly.
problem.
But listen, you know, it's a job which will appeal to many.
Yep.
It's, as Charlie says, it's a big job. Who do you think could replace Steven Gerrard and guide Rangers to back-to-back titles? Because that's the key issue here. Because not only is it someone that you've got to pick if they replace Gerrard, it's got to be someone that can land this 40 million that Rangers so desperately need in the Champions League, automatically going into the group stages if all the permutations work in Scottish clubs' favour.
Yeah, that's why maybe it has to be somebody, not somebody who knows Rangers inside out, but they know the stakes, how high the stakes are, and what needs to be done to get it into fruition. You know, and January, as we said, is going to be a big time. So the guy that's coming in will have to have a list of what he's going to do in January and know exactly what they need to beat Celtic, because that's the bottom line. You know, so as I say, well, we'll have to wait and see the names once they're all thrown out there.
But it needs to be somebody that can handle the big club mentality.
Yeah.
Because Stephen's done that. He's come in. He's had an aura. He's had a presence about him. He's handled the media well. You know, so he has to, well, apart from his first game where he made a mistake up at Aberdeen, but he's handled the media well in the time he's been here. You know, he looks a Rangers manager, so whoever comes in will have to follow in his shoes. And like I say, a Frank Lampard could be the name that everybody can look at.
Yeah, you said Steven Gerrard, you believe, has handled the media well.
Well, over the time, yeah. Most of the time, yeah.
Okay. As far as players or managers, I beg your pardon, who've decided to leave the old firm and head to the English Premier League, here's a few that we've put together that have managed to do that. Walter Smith joined Everton in '98. Martin O'Neill went to Aston Villa, and again, the last time they finished really high up the table was with Martin O'Neill, and they spent a colossal amount of money. I think they finished 7th, and that's the highest they've been in that table. And that was a lot of money they spent. Alex McLeish was at Birmingham. Obviously, McLeish took the Villa job as well. Gordon Strachan was at Middlesbrough. Neil Lennon, Bolton Wanderers, which was a mistake. Brendan Rodgers at Leicester City. So, you know, they move on. Sometimes they move on and realise that it's not as green on the other side as they thought it might be.
Yeah, I think if you're a manager of any of the old firm in Scotland and you're dominating and you've got a good team and you're on top, you know, it's not an easy job, but I think there's a lot more difficult jobs. Some of the guys that went down there really struggled. You know, going down there, Gordon Strachan at Middlesbrough, for example, spent a lot of money, couldn't get them, you know, couldn't get success there. So I do think that Gerrard obviously will. I think he'll take the job, but I think it'll be a much more difficult job than the Rangers job because, you know, I look at Rangers expected to win every week, and they should win with the players they've got, the budget they've got. But down there, you know, it's a level playing field.
But that's where he's got
every single week.
That's where he's got to change the mentality of the players. It's all right accepting to draws and all that. That comes when you've been at the top. You try and drum that into these players that a draw's not good enough. It doesn't matter if you're Aston Villa or no. You want to win every week. It is difficult because you're playing against better quality players every week, and you're playing against the Man City or Tottenham. So, but to go and expect to be happy with a draw in that, I think that's a different mentality what Stephen would bring to that club. And listen, the Rangers job's a tough job, and you know, but listen, the finance at Villa is just it's going to be a big point to sway him to go there, and what he can spend, his budget, players he can buy, and the team that he's got.
They've spent a lot of money, Aston Villa, in the last couple. I'm not Celtic village, but they've spent a lot of money.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I think it's survival's the key. That is the key. Steady the ship, change the mentality, then maybe push on again to try and get a better calibre of player next season.
Sorry, but you look at, we keep talking about Davey at West Ham now. What's the mentality of the West Ham players now? It's about they self-criticising themselves in interviews now because there's a level and expectation now of that football club that they think we should be competing at the top. So now Aston Villa, I'll be, you know, bringing that manager, that one that's played at the top level, and he's going to get the dressing room straight away because of who he is, and it's changing their mentality now to come and say, do you know what, we should be going to, a Tottenham and trying to win the game, or no happy with a point and trying to win. That's what West Ham are at the moment, and look at them, they're flying. So I don't see why they can't. Aston Villa, once he gets his foot in the door, consolidate, get them at the position they're in, and then move forward like West Ham have.
Well, he has to do a David Moyes job, Ruffy, because first time around at West Ham, David Moyes' remit was just quite simply keep them in the division, and that was down to organisation, making them tough to beat and sneaking enough points just to get them in.
But that might be the case at Aston Villa. You know, they might be just saying to him, look where we are now. We can't afford to go down here. You just need to stabilise us. You need to get us up in the middle of the league this year, and then next year we'll move on, and that's will be the attraction. But to get back to that's why Rangers have to get the right appointment to the next one, because he's going to have to walk into that Rangers dressing room, and the Rangers players will all have had the respect of Steven Gerrard and where he's been. So the guy is walking into the dressing room, and players are funny people sometimes. If that guy that walks into that dressing room is nowhere near what Steven Gerrard does, that's when you've got a problem.
It's difficult to get a guy of his calibre, but replace Gerrard.
No, but it has to be somebody not like him.
Lampard's probably only one in terms of name and stature. And
Well, there are a number of Rangers fans on our feed who clearly don't think it's going to happen. They think the speculation is wild. They think that clearly most of the stories from the written press to the broadcast to the radio, clearly some people think that it's just not going to happen. It's just wild speculation, and if Rangers haven't confirmed it, then it's not happening. But as you know in life,
the exact same things that Celtic fans saying.
Well, absolutely. Listen, this is the nature of it.
Vu.
There's no point in arguing with certain individuals because sometimes it just it doesn't register. But the one thing that I think a lot of Rangers fans will look back on is Steven Gerrard, if he leaves Rangers, stopped 10 in a row, and he did it in a season where Rangers not only were able to grind out certain results when they weren't playing well, but they did play really well throughout that season and deserved that title, Charlie. And I think that is what a lot of people will look at. Regardless of Celtic's implosion, Rangers were relentless, and that was down to the manager and the team he'd built.
Yeah, but you worry about what's going on in your own house, and they dealt with that. No problems. You can't help with what's imploding across the road or across the city. And said the same today about Steven Gerrard. Says we worry about what's going on in our own garden. We don't look over the fence and see what's happening there. We deal with what happens come the end of the season. If we're good enough, we'll see where we are. But that's the mentality you have to have at Rangers and Celtic. You worry about yourself, and if you win enough games and you take care of the games, you know, you'll be successful.
Oh, can I quickly ask a question? If Gerrard does leave, does that make Celtic favourites to win the league?
Well, it depends on who comes in, doesn't it? But I still think at the moment Rangers have got enough points at the moment. They are ahead. I don't think whoever comes in will try and deviate away from the way they're playing at the moment. I don't think you can come and make wholesale changes. I think you've sort of got to try and go with what the lads are used to at the moment. Tinker a little bit defensively if they can. But whoever comes in, I think they'll try and stick to the same way, principles of playing, and trying to get the job done.
Well, in the next 24 to 48 hours, Ruffy, it's either going to be confirmed one way or the other. Then Rangers need to move quickly, because then you want to give the manager as much time as possible, if he was coming in, to look at the players, work with them in training before the international break is over. You then say to yourself, okay, I now know what I've got to guide this team up to January 2nd. I tip Rangers to win the league on the evidence of what we looked at in August when we started back for the season, and I looked at Celtic and how it would be a transition with their manager. Their manager has galvanised them quickly, and it's not as big a gap as everybody was predicting this year. Again, as you're aware, Ruffy, in the old firm, in the race for a title, you can flip 20 points easily if you've got a good manager.
Yeah, but it's still all speculation, isn't it? We don't know what all the teams are going to do. We don't know what Celtic are going to do in January. We don't know what Rangers are going to do in January. I just feel the Rangers situation is the one where we're all speculating here just now, but I don't think they'll be speculating over at Ibrox. There'll have been talks. You can't let this speculation go on. Somebody's going to have to say to Steven Gerrard, look, what if? You know, and they'll know what if, because they'll be saying to him, look, if you're thinking of going here, we need to get ourselves organised. Things happen behind the scenes.
The dialogue will be there. Ross, Douglas, there'll all be dialogue since whenever Dean Smith lost his job. There'll be a dialogue between Stephen's agent and Villa or whatever to see sounding at the board.
Yeah. Well, Sky Sports have just tweeted, Rangers are now resigned to losing Steven Gerrard to Aston Villa and are actively looking at potential replacements.
There you go. So it's been happening, but it's just saying it'll become to a day where it might be Friday or tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We'll agree that the manager will go, this is the time, contracts are everything, and we're trying to hang it because of compensation, but also Stephen will want his whole backroom staff he's got at Rangers, so he has to try and get that out. Aston Villa will have to try and get people out that Dean Smith have still got there at the door as well. So it is complicated, but if it's a matter of time when it happens. It's now. Rangers, Ross, they'll be on the pulse now looking for a manager for Monday morning, because the players are off at the moment for international break, so they'll be looking for trying to get somebody in now for Monday for starting training to prepare for that semi-final. Yeah,
and of course across the city, Ange Postecoglou is celebrating Manager of the Month for October for impressive performances, and he was asked the inevitable question about Steven Gerrard, and as Charlie just alluded to earlier, I don't think he was too keen to comment on what happens across the other end of the city.
I'm just making everyone really aware that we can't get distracted by anything, by anyone else or anything else, because we're trying to build something here. And when you're trying to build something and be successful, you can't afford to be looking over your fence to what other people are doing. You know, we've got to build our house, make it nice and beautiful, and then see how it stacks up against the rest of the neighbourhood.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ange Postecoglou's got the right attitude to it, which is you build your own house, you don't have a wee sneak. I know you do, because East Kilbrides are all packed in together, but you don't sneak.
But sometimes when you're in that jacuzzi as well, you have a wee peek, see if there's anybody.
I think that's my neighbour on the fence.
Absolutely.
When the missus gets into it.
Aye, that's when the neighbours are peeping over to see what's coming out of that hot tub.
What's that with Ruffy?
Telescope.
It doesn't happen with Ruffy. He's got a big telescope and just looks over Cumbernauld. Yeah, absolutely. But it's a good way to look at it from Postecoglou. Concentrate on what you're doing yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's got Celtic going now. I think he's got the respect of the players. You know, they've got a certain way of playing now. You know, they don't deviate away from that. And when things weren't going as well, you know, a lot of people were going, "Oh, he's got to change it." Nobody's saying that now. You know, not everybody's thinking, well, by the way, this is the way Celtic play. This is the way they're going to play with three up front. They're going to be attacking. They're going to go and try win games. They're winning games now. I feel the fans are totally behind him now as well. So Celtic have got a bit of momentum. I also felt that Rangers would win the league at the start of the season. I felt Rangers would win the league up until 3 days ago. But I genuinely feel that if Steven Gerrard leaves Rangers, Celtic could go favourite to win the league. I do. I think that Gerrard and his staff are massive for Rangers, and I think, depending on who comes in, I think that is a huge blow if Gerrard leaves Rangers. I honestly do.
Well, there you are, Ruffy. It's 25-5 on the Wednesday. We're not even out of November.
Still thinking that Hearts are going to finish third, I know.
Yeah, of course, we're going to win that line as well. Hearts are going to finish third. Celtic are going to win the league. It's a big call from you, Tam, but
I don't think they're going to win the league. But if Gerrard,
you just said it.
I think Celtic would go favourites to win the league. Yes.
Yeah.
And do you think they'll win it?
Do you think they'll win it?
I don't know. It depends who Rangers bring in.
As manager.
It doesn't matter.
As manager.
It doesn't matter. Cheryl has already cut the clip up.
She has.
It's out there. You're dead and buried. Well, it's a big call. I think the big question will be, regardless of. I think the big question for me is there are two elements to this. The battle between Celtic and Rangers. I think Steven Gerrard's mind has been obviously made up. If he goes to Aston Villa, he's looked at the situation at Rangers financially and thought to himself, this train has stopped at the station and this is the club I've got to get on board with. They're apparently the 5th richest of the clubs in the English Premier League, so he knows he's going to get a bit of money to spend to try and keep them in the division, and as Charlie mentioned, build from there. The big problem for Rangers fans is, how difficult is it going to be to finance another manager and give him the necessary funds to get back-to-back titles? And that's the big question everybody's asking, because now Ange Postecoglou has thrown down the gauntlet. Celtic will sign players in January, and the word from inside Celtic is he wants them at the start of January. It's not the old regime with Peter Lawwell waiting to the last day of the transfer window. I see a change in the way they're going about their business.
Yeah, well, we've not got that far to wait, have we? We're into November and we've only got a couple of months to see the evidence of that. The Celtic supporters will be hoping that it's everything that you've said there, because January has been a nightmare in the past, and it lost the 10 in a row because of all the carry on that went on in January. So, things have got to improve. I agree with Charlie. I think Rangers have still got the personnel, particularly in defence. Celtic are still shedding goals, and it's okay saying, as long as we score 4, they can score 3 if they want. That's going to come back and bite you.
Less goals than Rangers in the league.
Let's ask Charlie. Did you feel they were a team that you could get at because of frailties in defence?
Well, we scored 2 against them, so you still believe that you can. I still think that you can score goals against them. Middle to front, yeah, they're excellent going forward, but defensively you can still score goals. Rangers have been leaking the goals as well. But I think Celtic will have to bring maybe 2 or 3 in. I don't think Rangers need that much. I think they might just have to freshen it up to bring bodies in and different type of player, but I can't see it. Rangers won't go spending big money. Celtic won't go spend huge money either. They'll be cute. Yeah, they might have to bring a few transfers, a couple of loans in, but I just think come January it's about freshening up and trying to give players a little boost and kick up the backside, the ones that need it. And you're hoping, like you say, your top players like Kent can come back from this injury and can sparkle from now till the end of the season or into January and get others in. So I still think Rangers are in a good position going forward. Yeah,
I wonder what the reaction will be over the next 24 hours from Celtic fans to this, and whether you agree with Tam that this could be a huge shot in the arm and a change of mindset, and Celtic could become out-and-out favourites to win the league, depending, of course, on what Rangers do to react to the possible departure of their manager. One thing's for certain, that Manager of the Month award for Ange Postecoglou, the manager himself was quick to praise his players for 4 wins and a draw in October.
Yeah, it was a good little period for us. We obviously, had been unsettled the kind of previous one, and results and performances had sort of been up and down. So we had to hit some consistency, get some momentum, and the whole group's been outstanding this last sort of 7 games we've had in this period, both domestically and in Europe. And credit, to all the players, credit to the staff here.
Okay, so the manager paying tribute to his team and what they are doing. Of course, Ruffy, Tam reserves the right to change his mind. He can change his mind. It's obviously difficult if you raise your head above the parapet. I mean, we're not obviously going to allow him to change his mind in the predictor of the fact that he tipped Rangers, but he can change his mind on the show. It's perfectly within our rights to listen to him and what he has to say. Are you changing your mind, or are you sticking with Rangers?
I'm sticking with Rangers, yeah. But I might change in January.
Yeah. All right, Charlie.
It's a huge blow for Rangers if Gerrard leaves.
It is. It's a huge blow, but you got to trust in the people that are making decisions to make their decisions, and I think Ross is as good as anybody out there. So I think he'll be working hard in the next couple of days to try and get somebody over the line if it does happen. It's got
the most important player, most important person in any football club.
The manager.
Yeah,
the manager.
And I think the link he's had with a lot of his players will have a lot to do as well, because you know what, if you're really close to a manager and he leaves,
signed them all, basically.
and you leave, you go, well, it's not the same. He's not here. Some people might.
I felt that 14
some
times in
people
my
not.
career.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they thought they 14 managers and all thought the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
When can we get rid of him?
after he got in the chop. Anyway, listen, you can give us your view on that. Don't forget, if you want to, you can download the PLZ Soccer app. It's a straightforward process. You can get it in Google Play and in the App Store. It has all the latest breaking news. And of course, you can watch the programme at your leisure if you miss it on the live 4 o'clock feed on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. We're absolutely delighted that more and more people joining us on the show, because you get managers and players interviews, and of course there's lots of unique video content as well that you can enjoy. Another topic, switching from the Steven Gerrard and Ange Postecoglou to Scotland. Rather worryingly over the last couple of days, Ruffy, we have a situation. Ryan Fraser called off from Scotland, and then suddenly a couple of days later you see him training with Newcastle United. Now, I don't know about you, but has he had a word with Steve Clarke? Maybe we don't understand, or we're not privy to a conversation to say, look, can you leave me out at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that happens in the modern day now, but if it's an injury, I'm led to believe you have to turn up and be assessed by the doctors at Scotland before you go back to your club. So really we don't, if he's training, it's not an injury then. So there has to be some kind of conversation with the manager.
It's claimed he didn't take part in full training, but he was just testing it out. But I mean, Ruffy, you could test it out with Scotland. I must admit, I'm a wee bit. I believe that if Aaron Hickey doesn't want to play for Scotland under 21s because he thinks he should be in the top squad, or his dad thinks
Shambles.
that, then he's not getting picked. And if Ryan Fraser wants to go back to his club football and doesn't want to actually put himself forward, and really step up to the plate for Scotland, then I would say you're not picked either.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I mean, he's had a wee bit of track record as well, not turning up for the Scotland squads, and whether he's injured or whatever, so it's up to the manager to make that decision. And I'm sure Stevie Clarke will be absolutely fuming if he finds out he's training or he's not as bad as what he's told him that he is. So the manager will make that decision, but I think we would all agree, if you don't want to pull on that blue jersey, don't bother turning up.
Yeah, I think it creates a negative vibe if some people don't want to be there. Don't be there. Just tell the manager, instead of stringing people along. And I also think the manager should take a hard line with people who don't want to make themselves available.
No, I totally agree with you, and I think it's just like you say, I think the biggest thing is that seeing him train is a huge blow to Steve. It's a trust. That's a trust thing for me. He doesn't want to be there. Go and say it. Matt Ritchie done it before. He said he didn't want to come and play for Scotland. So, the manager moved on with that. Ryan Fraser's the same. To be 2 days later training for Newcastle, I think is shambolic. And I think it's disrespectful to the lads that have, helped him get to European Championships as well. But the Aaron Hickey thing as well that's just somebody thinks they're too big for the boots. They played a couple of good games in Italy and been linked to AC Milan, and all of a sudden you decide, no, I'm not coming to play for the 21s. It's the same with Hudson-Odoi in England. I'm not going to go and play for the 21s, I'm too good for that. You're never too good to play for under 21s, because it gives you a pathway into the first team. So if you're playing well there, call-offs give you an opportunity to get into the national team. So I think that some people have to have a look at themselves and realise that playing for your national team should mean a lot to you. And, at the end of the day, it doesn't come round for many people.
I totally agree with the Aaron Hickey thing. I commented on it yesterday. He's tired. If Andy Robertson pulls his hamstring and Steve Clarke phones up Aaron Hickey and says, think you would be too tired to come and join up with the full squad? No. So no. I think it's poor. I played with Scotland under 21s. I was lucky to play with 21s. I think I got 14 or 15 caps. And I was playing with guys that were playing with Celtic and Rangers week in, week out and playing English Premier. Darren Fletcher turned up with 21s every time. Always turned up. Yeah,
it's all about attitude. Some people have got loads of money and think to themselves, stuff it, I don't need it.
That might be part of the problem. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. But things have moved on in football and things have changed dramatically, particularly in a lot of aspects of the game. And Charlie just touched on it there. For some people, it doesn't mean the same as what it did before. And individuals are all different, Peter. To get picked for your Scotland, it's not all about you, it's your family. Everything they get, it's the team that you're playing with. When you come back into the dressing room, how are you getting on? It's a whole aspect of the privilege of being good enough to get picked, and you shouldn't turn that down ever.
Yeah, and I think Scotland should take a strong stance on it as well. Kevin Nisbet wants to play for Scotland, wants to score for Scotland on a regular basis, and of course we've been talking about his form of late. He's not too worried about it.
Yeah, as I said before, I'm not worried at all about form-wise. I know I'll bounce back and score goals, and I'll probably become good again, basically, as I've been getting a lot of stick. So, not worried at all, and I'll bounce back soon.
Well, I think it's a great attitude. If he gets a bit of stick and people are questioning his form, that's fine. Strikers are like that. Players are like that. You guys know. Every day of the week, it's an utterly unique profession where from one week to the next, everybody's got an opinion on you.
You're only as good as your last game. That's all saying. I used to hear that all the time from coaches. Only as good as your last game.
Hooked at 60 minutes I was on Sunday.
Charlie.
I don't think I made 60. I think it was 56 minutes.
Yes, by the way, the good news, you were applauded off by both both ends.
I liked it when it went over to the corner in front of Celtic fans and gave them a wee applaud. I did have a chuckle at that watching it. That was good. That was good.
It was the best one. I was going out to after the warm up. They would give me dogs abuse, so I've given that to them to give me a bit more. Listen, and it's not been disrespect. I enjoy that. You can have a bit of fun and you can have a banter. Listen, Celtic is a big club, great away support. It's a bit of fun, and you know what I mean. We're too. I think
take it as a compliment.
Sometimes you take it too precious,
too sensitive.
Yes, and enjoy it and embrace that challenge. That Celtic and Rangers are the best teams in Scotland. You've got to have that as a challenge. It's great. And
did you give a wee bit of jip to Ralston? The two of you, a wee bit of.
We had a bit of go in that, but it's that's football, isn't it? It's good, and listen, we got
a strong boy, Ralston, isn't he? Really?
He's not bad. He's all right. He's doing all right.
He's a noise up. Brilliant. I love your attitude to it, Charlie, because that's exactly the way that I like to play sport, Ruffy. You've got to noise people up, have a laugh, have a wee fight here and there.
Yeah, when I was watching the game, my first thought was, I hope Charlie's got some of the tennis balls for us.
To be fair, right? I've gone back. I've had a couple of days. So I managed to give me Monday, Tuesday off, but I've gone in today and there's about 20 or 30 balls in the first team dressing room, tennis balls with all that guy's face on it.
Brilliant,
so they've obviously picked them up and put them in a basket. They're all just sat in the dressing room.
The commentator missed a glorious opportunity when Celtic went 1-0 up. You should just say that's 15 love to sell it. I was thinking that myself.
The new co-commentator.
There you go. Andy Walker just said that.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, great attitude to it, Chaz. I mean, listen, we like a good noise up, and the Celtic fans certainly gave you big likes, but you were man enough to take it all on board.
By the way, it was fair Cumden, wasn't it? 14 years ago. Did you hear that? 14 years ago, I was playing the new camp against Barcelona to the day, and I'm playing against Celtic. The ends.
Yeah.
In Champions League.
Changed days, isn't it?
12 o'clock on a Sunday.
Yeah. And just out of curiosity.
Hooked after 57 minutes.
14 years ago, who were you up against in the middle of the park?
Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Ronaldinho, Messi, Henry. Not bad.
Yeah.
And then Ralston. And I get kibosh for Tony Ralston.
Brilliant, Chaz. Excellent. The good news is they didn't swap shots at the end. You're all right, you're fine. John Carver confirmed that Ryan Gauld and Johnny Russell are still on Scotland's radar. There's a lot of people, I know there's a lot of United fans who still really like Ryan Gauld, and some real fanatics that we've had on here who watch and see how he's doing, which is great. We want to see a Ryan Gauld emerge. We want to see somebody who's got a trick or two and has learned on the continent and can bring something to Scotland if it's him. I like Johnny Russell a lot of time for the boy, because he, for me, epitomises what a Scottish lad should be as a footballer. Johnny Russell travelled over from America on countless occasions and sat on the bench and never get picked, but he wanted to be available for his country. That's what I call a footballer that's patriotic.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Russell's shown in the past that he's desperate to play for Scotland. As the travelling over there in America, and I played over there a couple of seasons myself, the travelling within America and Canada is a lot of travelling as well. But, not to mention coming back here, then going back there, travelling through time zones and different things. So it's a big commitment for players to come and do it. Kenny Marlon done it when he was at Vancouver as well. So the guys are still on the radar. I'm glad to hear that. I think Johnny Russell still got a lot to offer. I think he finished the top scorer in the MLS. And the MLS is a strong league. It's not a Mickey Mouse league anymore. It's a strong league with good teams. And Ryan Gould's went there to Vancouver. I think we're second bottom of the division. They've just got into the playoffs for the first time in a long time. So both of them have done really, really well in America, and I'm glad that both of them are on the radar, because I think sometimes when you're abroad, particularly in America, you can get forgotten about.
The hardest thing for Gauld is that's probably our strongest point in the team.
Where does he play?
In midfield, so it's hard for him probably to get into the squad at the moment, but you can only keep batting the door down. The coverage in the MLS is big, and let's say John said they're going to go out there to watch them, and you can only have as many good players available as possible. So if they're doing the business, then why not?
Charlie, give me your take on Suter.
He's got to be in. I've never seen enough of him in the last few years. Obviously, big injuries and that, but I've played against him when you were at the game.
Yeah.
I thought he was excellent. He's got everything to be, a good top centre back, and it depends on what Hearts do, if they can tie him into a contract. If not, I know he's been linked with Stoke. He's obviously, there's always going to be a doubt of,
his brother's still at Stoke.
But he's been getting touted for 20 odd million to 3 or 4 big clubs in England, because he's done really well as well, Harry. So it's I like him, and I think the only thing that everybody will look for is injuries. Can he? And I think that's probably Robbie's probably said to Steve, listen, we've only just gotten back 7, 8, 10 games. Can we wait?
Yeah.
But with injuries and that, they need to put him in, and he deserves that opportunity.
Yeah, that's good. Nice words from you, Charlie. I'm glad you said that. I like the look of him. PFA Scotland have announced roughly other good news, which is funding for a new dementia in footballer study, because clearly we need to look in greater detail at it, how we can actually prevent dementia, if there's any kind of research to try and work out a way to stop this horrible disease. And PFA Scotland don't have the money that the England PFA has, but nevertheless it's still a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's been, particularly in Scotland, a lot of our ex-players are the ones that we hear about, and devastating stories for the family and everybody's got to deal with. So the more and more things that we do that can help, particularly the families and people who unfortunately get this disease.
PFA Scotland, University of Edinburgh and the University of Glasgow will look into this. They'll be speaking to ex-players between the age of 40 to 59. They'll be taking part in a series of tests, and then we'll look at the links between playing football and brain health. Listen, if we can unearth something that can help maybe get some kind of medicine, some kind of cure, but nevertheless, I think the other big problem for a lot of people, a lot of families, is never mind looking into the research for the cures, if there is such a thing, is looking into some kind of support mechanism for players, and the care that families have to go through long term.
It's a horrendous illness, there's no doubt about it. It's a real heartbreaking one for not only for the person involved, but for their family. Forgetting who their children are and different things, and it really is. It's a horrible one. I actually watched the Jack Charlton documentary a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that was heartbreaking. I was crying at the end of that, and to see guys like that who played back in the 60s and the 70s with the big heavy balls and all that. There's no doubt for me that's got to have played a massive part in a lot of these ex-pros. Unfortunately, getting dementia, and so hopefully, as I said, Fraser Wishart is going to speak about it in the PFA. They'll do some testing, and I know there's a lot of testing going on to find a cure for dementia and M&D and stuff like that, so fingers crossed we can get that in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Last little point, and again, it's probably indicative of the way football's going, Ruffy. Speculation down south that Paul Pogba might have played his last game for Manchester United. He's been staying, he's been going, he's been linked with going back to Juventus, possibly going to Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain. He's got 2 months off after picking up a thigh injury with France. And suddenly he could be leaving Manchester United. I don't think many of the what I would call sensible Manchester United fans will give two hoots.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think he showed the form that he shows with his country. A fantastic player when he plays national game. He hasn't shown that. He's shown it in bits. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's got a bit of class. I just wondered if, I mean, I don't know the guy personally, so I'm just sort of
Pogba.
guessing.
I didn't think you would know him
No,
personally.
but
His brother,
I
can you
don't know.
dance like him?
I
know his brother.
I know his brother,
Brother played, yeah.
yes. But I don't know if he's the kind of guy you want walking about the dressing room when things are as bad as what they are at Man United. And that's just a
Can you
observation.
elaborate on that, please?
Well, sometimes these guys just walk about, don't give their backside because they've got a few bob and they'd rather be somewhere else, so they're better being somewhere else.
That's what our fake speakers does.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they still want the invoice at the end of the month. He still want his wages at the end of the
Not
month.
if it's a doubler. But to be fair, I'm not a big fan, as you can tell, Charlie. At the end of the day, United's problems are more than Paul Pogba, to be perfectly honest with you. But I just don't think he contributes enough for the calibre of player that he is.
No, he doesn't do enough, doesn't do it regular enough. You know, when you look at people like De Bruyne and, you know, what David Silva's done for Man City, you know, he does not play to the level that he should be. And, you know, 89 million for a transfer fee, whatever they've shelved it in wages over the last 4 years, 5 years, it's a huge disappointment for them. And to let him walk out the door for a free will be a major blow for them as a club and as a business, but that's what happens in football.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been an interesting programme. It's a programme that brought about what seemed like a U-turn from Tam McManus suddenly veering towards Celtic to win
If Gerrard
the league.
leaves.
Yep, if Gerrard leaves, then there is a change of heart from Tam McManus. Will you
Stevie,
change
still
it?
manager.
Yeah, Steve. Exactly, Charlie. The hot line to Steven Gerrard. Is he going to go? Is Villa the right club for him? Will Villa give him the perfect stepping stone to this anointed return to Anfield as manager of Liverpool? And all the stars have to align for that to happen. But is it a fatal blow if it does happen to Rangers' chances of winning the title, back-to-back titles? Can Ange Postecoglou take advantage of that? And if there is to be a replacement, who's it going to be? Who would you accept? Charlie thinks maybe Derek McInnes could be the perfect stopgap.
Or Frank Lampard.
Or Frank Lampard. There you are. You've heard it here. You get opinions, you get suggestions, and of course we get a bit of banter as well. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell as well, and you'll get all the notifications of our unique video content. If you download the PLZ Soccer app, you'll get all the latest breaking football news. If Gerrard's on his way, you'll see it there. Thanks to Tam, thanks to Charlie, and to Alan Ruff, from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks to you for watching again.